Hello and welcome to Culture Cubby, the podcast that is not afraid to say, elk can't climb up buildings.
No.
I am your host, Julian Sosa, along with...
Jared Slattery.
And today we are talking about the movie It Waits. So, brief synopsis. What is this film, Jared?
Forest Ranger. Vehicular homicide. Guilt. And then a monster kills everybody else in the movie. And a parrot.
And a parrot.
Parrot.
This fucking parrot. I was like, why is this parrot here? It's the worst dubbing.
Uh-huh. Oh, I was like, where's Howie Mandel? Doing these baby noises. His Muppet baby noises.
Yes, it's so funny. It's so funny that you brought up Howie Mandel because I wrote, parrot making light of serious situations makes noises like Gizmo.
This sucks.
That's mostly what Howie Mandel did in the late 80s and early 90s. Was just...
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't have a problem with that. Bobby's World's pretty good.
Yeah. So so this movie for me, the reason I had us watch it is because I have I say I'm like nostalgic for like weird things that like nobody else would think about.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is definitely like this 2000s time where like everybody was making a horror film, and everybody I feel like was chasing kind of the Eli Roth Cabin in the Woods, Cabin Fever.
There we are.
And so everybody was like making a monster movie. Everybody had a little bit of money because this movie doesn't look bad.
No, the equipment was great.
Yeah,
the way they used the equipment, no, that's great.
Yeah, which is a note we've had on a lot of the movies that we've talked about. Is like it looks fine.
Yeah. But unless you're like paying attention to editing, the cuts are atrocious. They're terrible.
Right. And I think that's just our way of saying like this wasn't like a couple buddies making a film.
No,
this was like money was a bit of money was put into it. There is some production to it.
Yeah, it's not a big budget film by any means.
No, but it falls somewhere in the middle. You know, that B movie again. It's at a time where like more people can start making movies. It is easier and more accessible to people. So yeah, I mean, it does start off with this archaeology group, this professor and his students blowing up a cave, which I don't think is typically their job.
No, let's fuck these artifacts.
Yeah,
let's blow all this up.
And they tried to make some sort of like Native American connection to it. It was very loose though.
Vaguely referencing, I feel, the Wendigo. And there are points in it that kind of make sense for the vague, and I only know the vague mythology there, and it's not really my area to say anything other than I've seen a lot of media about it, and some of the things that the media portrays correctly and not correctly doesn't really matter in this because it fits the profile. Because her friend dies in that car accident that she caused, and she feels guilty about it. But by the way, yes, feel guilty about it. You killed your friend. And you saved the bird first. You should feel bad about it.
I also wrote that down.
That's fucking insane. You should feel bad about it, but you absolutely did the right thing in not telling the cops that you did. Like,
I also wrote that down.
Yeah. Like, I don't think your friend would be like, you should go to prison now. I think your friend would be like, well, we were both fucking, like, this is dumb on all of our parts to get in this car. We were both impaired. We shouldn't have done this. But she dies at the hands of this woman who's not taking accountability. And, I could see that if they were, because this other person was also a forest ranger. Cause she's a forest ranger.
Yeah, everybody in the movie is forest ranger.
Yeah, so I'm like, so she's probably familiar with the area. I don't know. It would make sense by the way that she acted with all the equipment and stuff that she knows how all the stuff works. If that was the spirit or whatever of the friend that was haunting her specifically. And terrorizing her to destroy her life, at least there would be a thematic thread that made any of that necessary to tell this story.
There was, they had too much going on where it was like, there's the serious story about our main character, Danielle, having accidentally killed her friend by drunk driving. Then there's this parrot that's like a comedic relief almost. That that's what my note was about, was that like there was times where they're trying to tell us something very serious has happened, and the parrot is making a joke out of it, and the parrot didn't need to be there. I just want to say that the parrot
No.
didn't need to be there. The
Comedic
parrot,
relief
I
parrot.
expected, because it's been a long time since I've seen it. I was like, oh yeah, there must have been like a scene where the monster is attacking her and the parrot like jumps on its back
Yeah.
or something, and nothing like that.
It
Which
was
again would have been hard for them to pull off.
right, but also the way that they did use it was like, I'm like, you have control over the voice. You could make it say like, there it is. Like, cause at one point she was using it as a spotter to find the monster, and it was terrible. It was no help at all. It might as well just been saying random shit, you know.
Yeah.
And it knew like it just knew the monster knew too much. The bird didn't do anything. It was supposed to serve a purpose, and like I'm kind of interested in the original script and pitch for this movie because I feel like it might have been better than what we received.
Something that I kind of thought of is like, I think a lot of these movies that we're watching with these aliens and monsters, I think they started with the creature
Mm-hmm.
and made a story off of that. Because a lot of times, like, her whole backstory of accidentally killing her friend doesn't really add anything
No,
to the story.
it's her them saying, "Hey, she was an alcoholic because of this."
Right, and I do think, and I'll talk about it later, there's better ways that could have been incorporated. Because, yeah, it didn't add anything to this. I guess the only time it really did anything was when the forest ranger, the like whatever
The guy in charge.
head forest ranger. I didn't mean to make that sound like I'm like forest ranger.
Yeah, they do an
I think you guys
important
have an
job.
important job.
It's important.
But like the head forest ranger like doesn't believe her.
Yeah, he was so misogynistic too. Just like
yeah.
hardcore. Like, you pretty idiot. You're drunk. You have
Yeah,
to be
drunk. You have a huge wound.
You're saying that people are dead. I'm not going to take this seriously, even though this is my job to take
Right.
seriously.
So yeah, he doesn't believe her, but honestly, that gets resolved pretty quickly with his own death.
Yeah.
So that didn't really matter.
No, like none of this had to happen. They could have just kept it real bare bones,
Yeah.
and it would have been a lot better. In fact, I bet you could edit this movie very easily into something that's much more watchable.
Right. I did make a note that was like this movie almost would have been better if it was more superficial.
Mm,
Like a lot of like decoys we watched, like if it was more like that,
yeah.
because
Decoys is much more watchable than this.
Yeah,
Decoys
for
pretty
sure.
bad.
yeah, because there's a comedic element to it that at least has you smile here and there, whereas
Yeah.
this is for the most part taken pretty seriously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a little bit more of that would have helped. Like the boy, it's so funny because it takes a long time to establish that her friend that she killed was her friend. I thought it was a girlfriend she was
Yeah.
grieving over, and I think it's like not until like 20 minutes into the movie, maybe
Oh.
30 minutes into the movie, where they're like, "Oh, like I killed my friend," because she has this, I assume, boyfriend
Yeah,
that
Justin.
comes up,
Yeah.
and he comes up there to check on her because she's like getting drunk in the ranger station that she's alone at, and he he's very nice. He's like he's not very pushy with things. And it's really hard to tell that they are like a couple, or at least have had a relationship like that.
Yeah.
So up until that point, even after that, until they start like having sex, I just assumed that the person that was killed in the car crash was her girlfriend.
Yeah. And because so could have been. Really.
Yeah, I mean, just storyline wise, they just frame it as her friend. She
Yeah.
killed her best friend that she's known for a long time.
Yeah, but the amount of emphasis they put on any relationship here is tenuous at best. It's not connected that much to anything. It's quite dumb most of the time. But also, she told him that that she killed her friend, and her friend, and this guy was like, "Damn, it's not your fault," or maybe like fuck about it.
Oh, but that is not what happened though, because I was very like, I was like, this is sex scene is so abrupt.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
I do want to talk about that conversation a little bit more
Yeah.
though, because, yeah, she does reveal to him, oh, I'm actually the one that killed him. He gives very good advice. Don't go to the cops. Like, what is that gonna solve?
Yeah.
You know. Then immediately is like, okay, well, we could go to the cops. I'll go with you. It's like, no, you stop that right now because
Look, you don't want to go to jail for this shit. They don't even want to put you in jail for this shit. Like, they will if you go in and file a report.
yeah,
But they were probably like, oh, good. We don't have to fucking do more paperwork when they saw her ass, obviously.
spoiler alert. At the end,
Yeah.
she does go to the police, and then the next scene is her in her home reading
Yeah.
a book, and I'm like, nope, you would have been arrested.
Yeah.
You admitted to
Vehicular
manslaughter and falsifying information. There's all kinds of things they could put you in jail for with that situation.
Yeah.
There's no way you just ended up back at
You
home.
interfered with an investigation.
Yeah. So to the sex scene. They're having, like, the conversation is very heavy.
Yep.
Talking about this situation that we just went over. And then immediately she says, come here. And then it goes into the room style sex scene.
And the music, way worse than the room.
Yeah.
They were not on key. It was like, they should feel bad for how bad that sounded.
Yeah, I noticed also throughout the film it's the same voice in the music, so they clearly just had one person doing the music.
I'm like, you're flat. Every note's flat. No one corrected you? Someone recorded this. No one corrected you?
Yeah. Somebody definitely was like, oh, I got this friend that can add some music to this.
I mean, the thing is that they had the equipment and the technology to process their footage. They have the technology to edit that, and they didn't. They chose to leave that as is.
Yeah, it was way too long. Mm-hmm. That's why I brought up the room, because the music is obnoxious. The sex scene itself is too long. It shows up randomly. Very unnecessary and at a very inappropriate time.
A high sex scene.
Another weird thing I thought of this whole thing was like, I don't know if they're even worth calling premonitions that she's having. It's like she's having inklings. But
she's disassociating while she's looking at them. It's just like when he was walking, the guy was walking back to the woods. He was like, she was looking at him, and you're like, oh yeah, she knows that he's gonna die now, and she says nothing. She's like, just let him go because he won't believe me. I'm like, there was a monster on your roof, and you're on one of those tall ass ranger buildings. Lookouts. There we are.
Yeah.
Come on. Maybe it's an elk.
Yeah, the elk thing was...
I mean, maybe an elk or something. I mean, an elk could easily flip the Jeep using its antlers.
I mean, I guess at least they immediately were like, well, that's dumb.
Yeah. Look, if Santa Claus can manage it with 8 reindeer and Rudolph, get out of here.
Yeah.
An elk can definitely get up here.
This, the main character is played by Serena Vincent, who I'm a big fan of. So I've seen this movie, so I have a bit of nostalgia for it. But she's kind of a bit of a scream queen, or bad movie queen for me.
And the guys from General Hospital.
She appears in a lot of these kind of movies, but also she was on Power Rangers. So that's how it started.
Oh. Another one of these movies.
Gotcha!
It's once again Power Rangers.
All of the characters in this movie are just super disposable.
Yes, and they do.
Yeah, even if you really look at the amount of time that the boyfriend is there, he gets killed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Their interaction is pretty minimal. I kept getting upset that they kept stopping to bury everybody.
Yeah, and then it didn't matter. Like, the only reason why they did that was so that it would take the bodies away from the graves.
I would say that was my favorite part of the movie. Was that the creature kept messing with them by creating booby traps with the dead bodies.
Let me check this out.
Or like, yeah, after she buried her boyfriend and two hikers, he like presented their bodies at the dinner table, and they had her boyfriend's head with like an apple in his mouth, which
Like,
like this
context. How do you learn that?
That's I was gonna say this monster knows too much. It's like the genie from Aladdin. It's like, why do you know things about the future?
Yeah.
Or for the future, like it knows how to disable vehicles perfectly, like what it needs to take out in particular, or like communications stuff.
And I'm sure that there are ways you can make all of that work, but there's not they did nothing to explain anything. And I don't think they necessarily would have to if they didn't make so many things to explain. The problem with the movie is that there's no context for anything. There's no resolution for anything, which is common for what we've been watching. But as serious as this movie takes itself, as well as being convoluted and unfinished, it's confused too, like most of these movies, because there's a couple 90s style quips. One was it? Let me. Yeah, this is my serve, motherfucker. She says once, after when she's about to shoot the monster. And here's the thing: was there anything about volleyball or tennis in this movie that I missed?
Yeah, you know what's funny about that is she doubles down. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Game, set, match.
Game, set, match.
Yeah.
I'm like,
later on at the end.
What fucking world do you live in?
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense. Everything that you're still upset about, like, you just did some Predator shit, and then you said some Predator lines, but they make no sense. Did she have any connection with tennis or volleyball?
Yeah. Nothing established as far as, like, an interest or, like, former player.
Right. And even if that was the case, it's 2005.
Would have been funny.
Yeah.
I used to be a tennis player, but after my accident, I became a forest ranger.
Fucking way more arduous and pays nothing.
Yeah, there is like I said, I wish that there was a bit more humor in this. And I don't know, I got to the part, so there are these two hikers that kind of got lost, and they were told about them, so they're kind of on the lookout, but they're also dealing with this monster. And they happen across the hikers, but the boyfriend, he's about to shoot them, and the guy like sneaks up behind him, and like startles him. I don't know why I laughed so hysterically at this thought, but I was like, it'd be funny if you like just like accidentally like killed one of them or killed them both, and was like, now we both killed people. Now we're both in the same mindset.
Well, shit.
Let's deal with this monster.
There's a guy with a gun. I'm gonna sneak up on him and scare him.
Yeah,
I'm
as
like,
he's pointing a gun to my wife.
Yeah, like shit.
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought it would be like this. I don't know, almost funny that like they're dealing with another like big situation. Like, I murdered somebody, but we're also got to deal with this monster.
But they're also so unsympathetic that, like, watching how all that played out, it was just like, nobody cares that they died.
Yeah, everybody at weird times decides, like, I don't want to do the right thing. And I guess that's kind of like a horror film trope where, like, everybody wants to split up, especially at this time. So, like, there's a lot of that where it's like, oh, we should stick together. That made no sense, though, because they've been lost in the woods.
He's like, I got it. And you can tell that he was an abusive husband just by the way that the wife was acting. I was like, oh, shit.
That's true, yeah.
He's going to kill her when they get home. Probably he's going to kill her now.
Yeah.
That's probably why he's lost. It's so he can be like, I don't know what happened to her. I lost her in the woods.
It's very odd. You're lost in the woods for days. People are looking for you. And you finally happen upon park rangers.
Who are pointing a gun at your wife, and you go, fucking kill her.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, there's something dangerous out here. And you're like, nah, I'm good.
No, it's fine. I can run faster than her.
Yeah.
It's great.
So, in the beginning of the movie, we see the monster, like, a glimpse, like, one second glimpse of the monster. Then it is 34 minutes before we see another glimpse of the monster into this movie.
It waits. More like I wait.
I can't do this podcast. It's one of those, and thinking about it, I'm like, that was kind of a thing also, where like they would make these movies with like some sort of entity, and it would be a long time before you see it. Like that was the movie, was like the suspense before you saw it. You know, it's like a Marvel reveal with like way less payoff. That being said, the monster looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Like the practical, not the digital one, which was all right.
I mean, yeah.
Certainly seen worse. But the monster looked pretty good, and honestly, like, you should have used it more. Like, you would have gotten more out of the movie with at least having a cool creature to utilize.
I was like, but it's a bat. It's a big fucking bat.
Yeah. So what I took was that I don't know when this movie came out compared to Jeepers Creepers. I'm pretty sure Jeepers Creepers was before this.
Me too.
But it's very similar.
Yeah.
Like the style of how it killed or acted, because it was like it's a monster, but it's also a human. Clearly, because it's like thinking about things like propping up bodies and creating booby traps.
So I had to take this V8 engine out, and I know exactly how.
So after those hikers die, they find their Jeep like up higher, like the creature had like picked up and put their Jeep somewhere else. And they had just been hit with the booby trap dead bodies. And they start like flirting with each other, and then they give each other a kiss.
Like, yeah, you got dead body juice on you.
Well, it's like it's like, why does tragedy turn you guys on so much?
Gallows humor.
Yeah, except when you sleep with the troops, you kind of lose all your authority, big guy.
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
After the boyfriend dies, I'm sorry, the boyfriend hasn't died. They were like terrorized for a night, and the boyfriend goes, "I'm gonna dip out. Let's split up, and you stay here and hold up, and hopefully the monster will follow me, and I'll go get help or whatever." Or I guess they don't know it's a monster at this point. But she wakes up the next night and she says, "It's going to be a good day today. I'll will it." And it's like, this isn't a time for positivity.
I read The Secret last night. It's 2005. I just read The Secret. It's when The Secret was popular.
Yeah. So after the boyfriend dies, she, turns. They do the montage of like, "I'm gonna beat this thing." She like puts up cans everywhere.
Yeah. You can do a million different things than just put cans up. Those beans are good. They're gonna be good for a long time, and you've ruined them.
Yeah, but also they're in the forest. There's no way that she could possibly put enough around to like cover everywhere she needs to.
Yeah,
battle.
It just looks like she's up to something, but I can't quite figure out what. I'm just like, she's dumping beans out.
The Home Alone music was running in my head.
God, this movie was something.
Yeah, I also thought the order of things was off. Like the way stuff happened, it was like after the boyfriend dies, she goes after the creature because the cans work, and she ends up shooting it and like following the trail of like green blood, and she runs into like the professor from the beginning, the professor that kind of opened up the cave and this creature came out, and looks perfectly fine, like clean. He's wearing like not a suit but like business casual clothes,
and he was in a much less secure building, which is a trailer.
Right.
You can rip a trailer up.
Right, and I do think that he mentioned that he hadn't always been in the trailer, that he went in there after seeing the thing was wounded, but then where were you?
Yeah.
Like,
where were you, man?
They didn't explain that at all. He's very calm in explaining things.
It's like, listen, we've heard this before. We've been here. We know this forest.
And it did wait to kill her for no reason.
Yeah.
It gets the drop on her finally.
And it eats like a bit of her knee.
Yeah, like wounds her leg, and then leaves her, flies away.
I was hoping that it was going to turn into her friend at that point.
Or some. See, this is where the parrot saves the day thing that I was expecting would have happened. Or yeah, something with the friend. Nothing. Like there's no reason why the creature stopped. They really give no effort to explain it. And then it continues to try to kill her later on.
Why did her friend have a parrot in the bar?
This parrot didn't need. I hated it. I hated the parrot.
Too.
I really did.
It makes no sense. And then it can't fly. Also, it can't fly. Its wings are clipped, so it cannot fly. It's just like
That's how they got away with filming it in the forest without it just
right.
flying away.
And she's like, I'm getting the fuck out of this shit. But just watch this like fly away, and the bird's like, I can't. And I think you know that I can't.
I want you to fly out of here. I gotta go follow this trail of goo.
Yeah. Also, don't do that.
Yeah.
The parrot will definitely die if you just let it fly away in the forest.
It just resets the complete natural order of that forest.
Yeah, but yeah, the parrot just like randomly she lets it go, and then when she's at her home at the end of the movie, it like flies back to her
with again obviously clipped wings. Like they didn't hide that very well.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like it just hopped its way all the way fucking there. Oh my god! And by scent.
But even if you ignore that fact, it's like it just showed like it never needed to be there. If they like had killed the parrot, you might have that like, oh no, they killed the animal moment. Or again, if the parrot had like helped it anyway and sacrificed itself,
done anything for the film.
Yeah, it was just this weird, like almost comedic element that didn't need to be there, especially at like really inappropriate times.
Hey, pretty baby, Julie still loves you.
Shut up, Hoppy. Julie's dead.
There's another thing when the main forest ranger comes down and he doesn't believe her and she kind of like gives up. I'm like, didn't the creature like move the building? Like that would be and there's like huge claw marks everywhere.
Yeah.
Like there is evidence she could have pointed to.
Women, they just be making things up. That's how this guy felt.
Yeah.
He's like, they get a little sad and they get confused.
Yeah.
The only one who can save them is me.
Right.
The best dude.
Oh, listen, I know the sound of somebody cracking up.
So would you recommend it?
Yeah, it's alright. It's not good. But, horror movie people, this is pretty much bread and butter from that era. It's pretty regular shit.
Yeah, like I said, I did have a bit of nostalgia for it, but I think ultimately I wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
It's not fun in any way.
That's true. It's not.
Certainly not scary enough to like be a good horror. Like the only really redeemable thing about it is the monster looks all right. Yeah, or it's not like so bad that it's like something to be experienced. Like,
no, it's very mediocre in its
Yeah.
failings. Nothing crazy, good or bad. Just pretty boring.
Yeah. But I will say, we'll definitely end up watching another Serena Vincent movie. I can assure you of that.
It waits too. Electric Boogaloo.
Thank you so much for watching and hearing us discuss It Waits.
It waits.
Bye.
Bye.
Babe alert, lock up your daughters.